Welcome to episode 15 of the Gambots podcast. I'm your host, Eric, and this is my co-host.
It's Christian.
This week, we're going to be doing something a little bit different. Me and Christian are going to be telling you our 12 days of Christmas movies that we think you should check out. So first on our 12 days of Christmas, we have Elf, the 2003 movie starring Will Ferrell, directed by Jon Favreau. This is probably one of my top Christmas movies, Christian. What about you?
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, this is the one.
This was such a surprise release too. I mean, this was Will Ferrell in his prime, and it's not an adult movie. It's one that adults and kids can like. It's so well done, and it's really funny.
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure of the timeline of his movies, but this is, I would guess, probably the first movie I remember really knowing Will Ferrell from.
Oh, really? So the first one I remember him from is Old School, which I think is older than this, but maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah, now I love Old School, but I definitely did not see it until years after it came out.
Okay. So if anyone listening doesn't know, the story of Elf follows Buddy the Elf, who is played by Will Ferrell, who's this baby that ends up crawling into Santa Claus's present bag and is taken to the North Pole, and then he gets raised as an elf because he was an orphan child. And so then he grows up, and obviously he's a lot larger than the other elves, and eventually it's revealed to them that he's not actually an elf, and then he goes on search of his real father, who lives in New York, and then it's the interactions between him and his father and him thinking he's an elf and interacting with everyone else that makes this such a humorous movie.
Yeah, and so quotable.
Oh, yeah, there are so many good lines on this. I mean, just yelling the word Santa at someone is one of the things. Yeah, and also on this, it's not just Will Ferrell. Zooey Deschanel is in it, which this was actually one of the first things I've seen her in. And really, I couldn't name anything else she was in until The New Girl.
Yeah, this is definitely the first thing I remember her from. She was in 500 Days of Summer with Joseph Gordon-Levitt, a movie that I think is super strange and not very good, but that's just me. And she is probably my least favorite character in New Girl, but she is excellent in Elf.
Elf is pretty much, I think, critically acclaimed. I mean, its budget was $33 million, box office was $220 million, and I think it's probably the favorite Christmas movie from the 2000s if you would take a survey, because I know a lot of people really like this movie.
Oh yeah, like you said, it is just kind of universally accepted as the Christmas movie, especially more recently.
And I looked up Jon Favreau, and it looks like he actually has gone on to direct some pretty good movies too. He did Iron Man 1 and 2. He did the new-ish Jungle Book from 2016, and he's actually headlining The Lion King.
Yeah, he's a fairly big name. He's been in a lot of movies with Vince Vaughn. He was in all of the Iron Mans and the new Spider-Man as the assistant.
Yeah, he's happy in those movies.
Yeah.
So on our second day of Christmas, the movie that I'm going to suggest you guys check out is Die Hard. Now, I think this one's maybe a little bit controversial because some people don't think it's a Christmas movie, but the entire movie takes place on at a Christmas party. So I think it should count. If you don't know, Die Hard stars Bruce Willis, and it is amazing.
Yep. Now, I've been watching a lot of Brooklyn Nine-Nine recently, and the main character is obsessed with Die Hard, and so I've had a lot of Die Hard in my life recently.
Yeah, well, that's the one where, because I started watching Brooklyn Nine-Nine, that they started talking about it so much, and I hadn't actually watched Die Hard, for probably like a decade or something, and then I was like, I should check Die Hard out, and I had forgotten so much about it. It's so good. John McClane is a cop from New York who's visiting his wife in L.A. They're a little bit on the rocks, and while he's at a Christmas party at the Nakano Tower, it is invaded by robbers who are posing as terrorists who are actually just trying to do a huge heist, and the whole movie is him more or less taking out these guys one by one and trying to save his wife and the other hostages. And man, this is like the epitome of 80s action movies. If you rewatch this, Christian, I forget how awesome like late 80s, early 90s action movies were. This, Escape from New York, Escape from LA, Lethal Weapon. Like, they're so ridiculous, but they're so much fun.
I think it's funny to look at the kind of evolution of the Die Hard movies as they went, where you start with this first one where it's just kind of like a buff, tough guy climbing through the vents and like kind of guerrilla fighting these guys one-on-one, and then you have the fifth one where he's like jumping cars into helicopters in the middle of a city. Like, there's no subtlety in it at all.
Yeah, the closest thing I can sort of compare this to are the Fast and Furious franchise, where it starts out sort of like making a little bit of sense and then just getting more ridiculous as each movie goes on.
Yes, absolutely.
This movie also stars Alan Rickman, who is the bad robber, the head robber in this, who is leading the charge on them, and he is so good in this movie.
Now, this was like his breakout role, if I'm remembering correctly. Like, he didn't start acting until he was much older, and so this was like one of his first roles, if not his actual first role.
Wow, I didn't realize that. I mean, he does a good job in it. He plays a really good bad guy.
Yeah, it looks like he was in a couple low budget like TV movies in the like early 80s, and then Die Hard in 88 is really the first big name on his list.
Wow, that's crazy. And then, I mean, obviously, I think his most famous role for the large public is he becomes Severus Snape in Harry Potter, if people are wondering who we're talking about.
Yeah.
So this movie had a budget of $28 million, made $140.8 million in the box office, so not bad for a 1988 movie.
Yeah, that is pretty good.
All right, for third day of Christmas, Christian's suggesting that you check out Daddy's Home 2.
Yeah, so I'm going to be totally honest. I did not watch Daddy's Home 1. I meant to, and it just never happened for me. But Daddy's Home 2 I saw in theaters, and it just came out last year, and oh man, did it. It really exceeded my expectations. I was a little wary because I'm not at all a Mel Gibson fan, at least not since probably Signs, which we've talked about during the Halloween episode, actually. And I'm not a huge Mark Wahlberg fan, but we talked last week about Mark Wahlberg teaming up with Will Ferrell to make some of these comedies, and this is one that really, really worked for me. So if you don't know the franchise, Daddy's Home is about a group of kids who are living with their mother and Will Ferrell, who is their stepfather, when their real father, Mark Wahlberg, shows back up after being gone for a while. I'm not 100% sure if he had just gotten out of prison. I think that's right. Like I said, I never saw the first one. There's then conflict, and they're trying to figure out who is going to be like the quote-unquote real dad to these kids, and they get into a big competition. And then apparently the first one ends fairly amicably, as you would expect from like a family comedy, because then at the start of Daddy's Home 2, which is a Christmas special kind of movie, they are like best friends, and both of their fathers are now coming in to spend Christmas with the larger family. So now it's about the dads trying to get together and hang out. And so Mark Wahlberg's father is played by Mel Gibson, and he is exactly what you would expect from somebody who had raised Mark Wahlberg. He's like a tough guy and irreverent. And then Will Ferrell, who plays like a goody-goody, his dad is Jonathan Lithgow, who is exactly what you would expect from someone who had raised Will Ferrell. He's kind of like nutty and all over the place and goofy. And so it's just about the family coming together and trying to work through their relationships.
You know, I've never actually had much interest in this movie till you've talked about it. So I might check it out. That's my goal, is if I can find it for cheap, I will check it out this year. But that said, I think Mel Gibson, even though I'm not a huge fan of him, or Mark Wahlberg, I think that is a really good famous person, father-son pairing.
Oh, yeah, it works perfectly. And then Mark Wahlberg is involved with a woman, and she has a daughter whose father is John Cena.
Oh, man, John Cena's in this.
Yep.
I thought he was so good in Blockers.
Oh, my God, yeah.
So, everything I've seen him in, I've surprisingly liked. Like, I'm not a huge I guess I might be a John Cena fan. I never liked him in wrestling, but in the movies he's been funny.
Oh yeah, he's always pretty good. I don't know that I've ever seen him in a movie where I've walked away disappointed. I wasn't super excited for, and to be honest, I'm still not super excited for the new Transformers movie coming out, but I just found out recently that he's in that, so I'm a little more excited than I was before.
Are you talking about Bumblebee?
Yeah.
I haven't even heard of that until today. I finally saw a preview, and I had no idea that was being made. Yeah, I really am surprised because his wrestling persona is really corny, I think. So it's odd to see him in funny roles, but he does a good job.
I will say, definitely check this one out. There's a lot of just kind of fun family humor stuff. Like if you have like weird dads, you'll definitely enjoy this. There's a whole bit just about changing the temperature on the thermostat that goes on for like longer than it should, but it's still like the perfect amount of time. It just really surprised me.
So for the fourth day of Christmas, we're going to try and narrow down 9 movies that we thought were good and figure out which 2 of these are the best. That we weren't sure if these deserve to be on here or not. So we're going to do a little bit of talking about a bunch of movies in rapid fire here, and we'll eventually narrow it down to 2. Now, the movies on this list are Bad Santa, The Night Before, Love Actually, Ernest Saves Christmas, Santa Claus is Coming to Town, Home Alone, Love the Coopers, Nightmare Before Christmas, and White Christmas. Christian, let's do this a little bit of a different way. How about we'll pick one movie and then, we'll talk about all these briefly, but which one of these do you immediately feel like just doesn't deserve to be on this list?
Santa Claus is Coming to Town.
So what is that one about?
That's an old movie, like an old classic stop motion animation one about the original Kris Kringle, who comes to a village where the ruler of the village has said that Christmas is illegal, and he has to try and reverse that decision and make everybody happy again.
All right, so we'll remove that from contention, and I'm going to remove one as well. I'm going to remove Love Actually. Now, this is a movie released in 2003. It's a romantic comedy, and I actually liked it when I was younger, as a teenager and early college. But rewatching it, I don't know if I've grown up or what, but rewatching it in my mid to late 20s, I find this movie kind of cringeworthy, but part of me still likes it because I liked it growing up. But it's just about a lot of people who are creepers. So this story follows, I think, 8 different love stories, and one's it's a British movie. It's about the British Prime Minister. There's a writer. There's this Liam Neeson's child is, in it trying to go after another girl, and Alan Rickman's in it. And they all tie together to somewhat, but I think all the guys in them come off as really big creepers in this movie in retrospect. I still think parts of it are really funny, especially the rock star. But overall, I don't think it's actually one of the top 12 Christmas movies, even though it has a soft spot in my heart. But objectively, I don't think it's a great movie.
Yeah, I've never seen that one, so I'm going to take your word for it.
It has a lot of stars in it. They have with the Bilbo Baggins.
Ian Holm.
No, Martin Freeman's in it.
Younger Bilbo Baggins.
Hugh Grant's in it. Liam Neeson's in it. Colin Firth's in it. Emma Thompson. There's a lot of surprisingly big names in this, but I don't think it deserves to be on this list. Okay. All right. Do you have another one you think you would take off this list?
I'd probably take off Nightmare.
Why is that?
Mostly just because we talked about it during Halloween already. Like I said in that episode, I'll take both. I'll watch it during Halloween and during Christmas, but I think since we already covered it, it's not worth covering a second time.
Yeah, and sort of similar to that, talking about it over Halloween, I want to take off Ernest Saves Christmas. I can't remember if we talked about Ernest Saves Halloween or not, but I thought we did. But I think Ernest movies are fun, but I don't think they're the best of the Christmas movies.
Yeah, we definitely did because it's one of the movies that scared me to death as a small child.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. All right. So we have 5 movies left. What's your next one you're going to remove?
Next one will probably be Love the Coopers. So I really, really like this movie. I haven't seen it since I saw it in theaters. I was going to try and go back and refresh my memory this week, but I didn't really get a chance to. And it's a shame because I do remember really enjoying it. I know it was set in Pittsburgh, and there's some shots in Latrobe, which is right nearby, which was neat to see. But yeah, it's just kind of a generic feel-good family movie. I feel like you could get the same kind of thing accomplished by a lot of other Christmas films.
So I'm torn on my next one. I love Bad Santa. It's one of my favorite, I think, Christmas movies, but I don't know if it's actually a good Christmas movie objectively. It stars Billy Bob Thornton. He plays a mall Santa who he pairs with an elf, and they rob Christmas by being able to be in it late and stuff. And the whole premise is that they're casing them all out, and then he goes in and cracks the safe. But he ends up living with one of these kids, and just his interaction with the kid is amazing. There's so many good scenes in the movie. It's really quotable, but I don't know if it's actually that great of a Christmas movie. It's not. It's definitely not one you're really going to watch with your family. So I think I'm going to take that one off. Pains me to do so.
Yeah, definitely not a family movie.
Yeah. All right. So we're down with The Night Before, Home Alone, and White Christmas. Instead of taking one off, what is the one you would like to put on our list?
I would probably go with Home Alone.
That is a classic movie. So why would you put Home Alone above the other two right now?
It's just very fun. Like it's a fun movie in that it's Joe Pesci kind of being the height of Joe Pesci, just very aggressive and fun to watch. And Macaulay Culkin is just great. It's a lot of like kind of wish fulfillment watching this kid just beat the crap out of these adults with all of these improvised traps throughout his house. It's just a good movie. Like it has a lot of rewatch value. I'd stay away from the sequels, but the original is pretty hard to beat.
Yeah, and the original, I think, for people of a certain age like us, is that was a childhood movie that you grew up watching. And there are some really good scenes in that movie. And I actually learned this year. Do you know the movie he plays that he's quoting about when he fires the Tommy gun and stuff? That's not a real movie. They entirely made that just for Home Alone.
Really? I did not know that.
Yeah, I found that out the other day, so I was really surprised.
That's pretty cool.
So for the one I'm going to pick, and this is maybe a little bit of a surprise to people, but I'm going to pick The Night Before. I really liked that movie when I saw it a couple years ago. Maybe it wouldn't hold up as much on a rewatch, but I thought it was really funny. So The Night Before is a 2015 movie starring Joseph Gordon-Levitt, Seth Rogen, and Anthony Mackie, and they are 3 childhood friends who are going out and having fun with each other, and they're basically trying to cheer up Joseph Gordon-Levitt. And this was their yearly tradition that they hang out as friends, and this is their final year doing it. And so it's just them going around New York, and surprisingly touching moments in part, even though you have a bunch of the standard outrageous comedy that you have in Seth Rogen movies. And this is directed by Adam Goldberg, who he wrote or produced or directed movies. He was part of Knocked Up, Superbad, Pineapple Express. He produced Neighbors. He co-directed This Is the End, which I think is really underrated and really funny. He produced Blockers, which we talked a little about earlier, and The Disaster Artist, and Neighbors 2. So if you like those types of movies, you will like The Night Before, and I would say check it out as our 5th day of Christmas. For our 6th day of Christmas movie suggestions, we are picking The Muppet Christmas Carol. Why is this one of your top Christmas movies, Christian?
Because it's perfect. It's a musical. It's the Muppets. It's a Christmas Carol. It has Michael Caine in it. It has a rat narrator. I'm all about it. I've watched this movie every year for Christmas since I was a very small child. I'll probably never stop.
Yeah, this might be my favorite Christmas movie just because it's short and sweet. It only has a runtime of 86 minutes. There are some really good songs in it. If you guys don't know the story, Gonzo plays Charles Dickens and tells the classic Christmas Carol with Rizzo the Rat providing commentary, and Michael Caine plays Ebenezer Scrooge, and they have all the Muppets involved in it, and it is so well done. It's such a good movie.
Yeah, I was. I mean, I obviously loved it as a little kid, but I remember when I finally really grew to appreciate it, and I was like, man, even as, and I hesitate to call myself an adult, but even as an adult, this movie holds up.
It does, especially with the Jim Henson stuff. They were so clever with how they did things. If you just watch the background on this, humorous things are happening that you might not notice on one or two watches of it because you're watching the main characters. But when you see it so much, you start looking at the backgrounds, and you just see the Muppets and how they act in the background, messing with each other. And I think it's so good.
Yeah, there is a lot of that kind of background stuff. It makes it very fun.
If you guys are checking this out, my suggestion, if you have the option of doing either the extended version they have for DVDs or the original theatrical cut, I say do the theatrical cut. I think they only had one extra song, and I actually think it's the weakest song and not that great. But I don't know what if you have thoughts on that, Christian.
Is that the Sam Eagle song?
No, it's the one where it's Ebenezer Scrooge when he's younger, and the girl sings as to why she's breaking up with him.
Oh, right. They did a different version of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like the theatrical version.
Yeah, I do too. It's a lot shorter. I think it drags on. I mean, regardless of how you watch it, it's fine. That's my only suggestion on it.
Yeah, agreed.
Of the songs, what one is your favorite from the movie?
Probably that one. Either that one or Marley and Marley.
Yeah, I think mine's Marley and Marley. I think that's so well done. So, the Marleys are played by Statler and Waldorf, and they even have their jokes with each other within the song, which is so good.
Yeah, it's a fun back and forth.
For the seventh day of Christmas movies, I'm going to suggest Miracle on 34th Street. Now, this is a 1947 movie, black and white, but I think it's really well done. Follows the story of where people believe Kris Kringle is a homeless man who is just a little bit crazy but nice, and he goes to a department store, I think it's Macy's, and is just the best Santa they've ever had. And so the movie focuses on him, but then also with the head of Macy's marketing department, who's this lady with she doesn't have her husband and she has a daughter, and then her friend who's also a man. So there's a love story between them, and then their interactions with Kris Kringle himself, who they all think he's crazy. And then eventually he goes on trial. Is he allowed to be left alone? And there's a whole trial of Santa Claus, and it's a fun old movie. It's really wholesome. It's pretty much, I think, what you would expect from a movie from this time period, but I think it's really well done.
Yeah. Now my dad will be thrilled to have this on the list.
Is he a fan?
Oh yeah. I was talking to him about this episode that we were doing while we were in New York this weekend, and I was like, we've got to put together a list of Christmas movies to talk about, and he said, well, if Miracle on 34th Street and It's a Wonderful Life and Bells of St. Mary, and he rattled off one or two other ones aren't on this list, then the entire list is not valid. And I was like, well, we'll see about that.
Yeah, we might not have all those, but I think this one's a little bit underrated. I heard a lot more about it when I was younger, but nowadays the only old movies I hear people talk about are It's a Wonderful Life. I don't hear people, talk about how much they like Miracle on 34th Street anymore. And Granted, I don't have cable or Turner Classic Movies or anything like that right now, but I never really saw it on TV either when I was growing up.
Yeah, now that I can't speak to because, as I said, living in the house that I lived in, it was on TV every year in my house.
And for those who don't know, also this is actually based on a short story which I remember reading in middle school, which is before I even saw this movie. So, if you're interested in that, check it out. It's probably pretty good. So, for the Eighth Day of Christmas movies, what are you selecting, Christian?
Well, we may as well just go straight through on that and do It's a Wonderful Life. I'm mostly putting this on here, as I said, as a nod to my father, who, if this is not his favorite movie, it's certainly his favorite Christmas movie. And it was on a lot growing up, and even now, he watches it every year. And so if nobody's familiar with it, it's an old movie, black and white. It is about a guy in a kind of a small town who runs a bank, and everyone on the town kind of depends on him, but he doesn't really see that. And one night he wishes that he had not been born. And so an angel comes down to show him how terrible everyone else's life would be if not for his help and his influence. And that gives him kind of a reality check and lets him continue on with his life happier and invigorated.
So I have a full-on confession. I've never seen It's a Wonderful Life. It's a huge blind spot for me on classic movies that everyone knows. The only thing I know is Jimmy Stewart's part of it because I've seen clips of it.
Yeah, he is the lead. It's good. It's a feel-good movie. It's a little dark in places, but that's by design. And so it really is kind of an examination of the impact that every individual person has on society, whether they're aware of it or not.
I know I haven't seen it, but this has to be one of the most, I don't know if the spoofed or parody is the right word, but when you see Christmas specials, a lot of people use this story as showing, a lot of people use the themes of this as their story where you think you're better off and you're not, or they do a parody of it where people are actually better off. I'd say this and Christmas Carol are the two most used ideas for, like shows like The Simpsons or Family Guy or something like that.
Yeah, that's probably accurate. There's a lot of lines in this that you would probably recognize from other things, like when he finally comes to his realization that he was better off the other way, and he's screaming, Clarence, I want to live again, and every time a bell rings, an angel gets his wings. That's from this, and so it has heavily influenced pop culture. So I think it should probably be on this list if for no other reason than just for that.
Yeah, this is the one I'm going to make the most effort to see because, like I said, I've never seen it and I've always wanted to. So I'm going to make a concentrated effort to check this out this year. For our ninth day of Christmas, we are going to suggest you check out Scrooge. The 1988 the 1988 version starring Bill Murray, which is I would say modern take on A Christmas Carol, but really it's a 1988 take on it. So 30-year-old take on The Christmas Carol. Bill Murray plays Ebenezer Scrooge, who's actually instead of being a rich miser, he's a wealthy TV executive who is focused on getting a Christmas special set up for Christmas, and it's about him going through, all the ghosts of Christmas past, present, and future, but instead of it being in a mansion, it's him actually going around the TV studio and around his city, and he thinks he's going crazy, and he's awesome in it. It's a really good take on A Christmas Carol.
Yeah, this is one of my favorite Christmas movies. And honestly, it might be my favorite Bill Murray movie.
Yeah, I mean, he's good in this. It's a classic Bill Murray movie if you haven't seen it. I mean, he's deadpan at times, he's witty at times, he's manic. He's such a good Ebenezer Scrooge.
Yeah, he really is perfect. Now the love interest is Karen Allen, who has done many, many movies, but she was most famously probably in the Indiana Jones series as his love interest. And the Ghost of Christmas Present is easily my favorite part of the movie. She's played by Carol Kane, who people would probably now recognize as Lillian from The Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt. And she is just as crazy in Scrooged as she is in Kimmy Schmidt.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of good people in this. They have Bobcat Goldthwait, who plays a down and out guy who essentially just goes postal on the studio for firing him. And I always think he's funny in his roles, and I think he's good in this. One of my favorite ghosts was the Ghost of Christmas Future, especially when Bill Murray first meets him and thinks it's a guy in a stage outfit. So, really, really good movie all around. For the 10th day of Christmas, I'm going to suggest you check out Emmet Otters' Jug Band Christmas. Now, this is I guess more of a made-for-TV program, but it's 48 minutes. It's by Jim Henson, and I don't know. Did you ever get a chance to check this out, Christian?
I had not heard of it until it showed up on our list.
I think it's underrated. It was, a big movie in my family. The story follows Emmet Otter, who is an otter and his mom, and they create a band with him and his other buddies with washboards and jugs and things like that to win some Christmas money so that he can buy a Christmas present for his mom. Unbeknownst to him, at the same time, his mom is also planning to enter the contest to get Christmas money to buy a prize for him. And then, they eventually find out it's very wholesome. There's not really a lot of conflict or anything like that. The bad guys in it are these like greaser gangs. It's a snake and an alligator and stuff, where they're a hard rock band. And it's a really fun movie. I'm a huge fan of Jim Henson and stuff, so obviously that's going to get me every time, but I think it's well done. If you haven't got a chance to check this out, I highly suggest you do. It's from 1977, and I guess it aired on Nickelodeon in the 90s, so that's why I know about it, but it's good. Parts of it are pretty funny. They have music in it. Definitely older, jug band style music, and it's good.
Yeah, I'll definitely have to check it out.
For 11th Day of Christmas, for the 11th Day of Christmas movies, we suggest you check out National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation, the 1989 classic starring Chevy Chase. All right. So I'm going to guess that you've seen this before, right, Christian?
Oh my goodness, yes.
What makes you like this movie?
It's just it's my kind of comedy. I really like the original Vacation, but I think this one is the best of the series. And for a very, very long time growing up, this was my favorite Christmas movie, hands down.
Yeah, of the Christmas movies, I think my family probably watched this every year. They loved it, so I saw it a lot growing up. And this is Chevy Chase, before a little bit of his downfall here. And it's right when he was, in his prime, and he is so funny in this. And I agree with you. I think this is the best of the Vacation movies.
Yeah. So, I mean, everything about this movie, from the crazy amount of lights on the house to Cousin Eddie rolling up in his trailer to getting stuck in the attic and falling through the roof. And then one of their neighbors is Julia Louis-Dreyfus, who's Elaine from Seinfeld. And then they, of course, they have to put up with all of the nonsense going on at the family home next door. Now, honestly, some of the scenes with her and her husband are the best in the movie as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, so if you guys have not somehow seen A Christmas Vacation, the premise is Chevy Chase is Clark Griswold. He just wants to have a great family Christmas. And so they eventually end up inviting his in-laws and his wife's in-laws. That includes Cousin Eddie, who's played by Randy Quaid, who lives in a trailer, and he's hilarious in this movie. And then just all the shenanigans of having extended family coming to stay at your house, and how it can be stressful, but also a time to bring people together. and it's so good. I think my favorite scene in the movie is when they go sledding and he greases up his sled with some sort of industrial oil, and then he just zooms down.
Yep, that was going to be the next thing out of my mouth. The best scene in the movie, bar none, is the sled riding scene.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. And also just a lot. Like we said, just quotable things. Some of the lines that Cousin Eddie says. Oh my god. So good.
Yeah, Randy Quaid, who's nuts in real life, just kind of plays himself in this movie, and he does a pretty perfect job of it. I think my favorite line is when everything's falling apart and Chevy Chase screams at his wife that we're on the threshold of hell. I use that line a lot in my day-to-day life.
Yeah, I mean, it's so good. I would say this is one of the best Christmas movies ever. I mean, it holds up, and if you guys have not gotten to see it yet, you definitely should.
Absolutely.
All right, and for our final day of Christmas, what movie do you suggest, Christian?
The one and only Christmas Story, of course.
This is really a classic movie. I mean, no other movie I can think of is played 24 hours a day on Christmas, or any day, really.
Yeah, and that time limit keeps inching forward, I think. It starts on like 8 or 9 p.m. on Christmas Eve now, so it's probably played for longer than 24 hours at this point.
Yeah, I remember watching this movie a lot when I was growing up, too, because it was another one my family really liked. We had the VHS, so it got watched a lot around the holidays.
Yeah, it's just one of those staples of the season of just the day, really. I've seen it so many times at this point, just from basically having it on in the background during holidays past, that with kids in the family now, they're switching back and forth between cartoons and this and that and the other thing, and my brother putting on sports. But every now and then we'll flip back to whatever channel it is that has Christmas Story always running, and it does not matter what part of the movie is on. I know exactly what's going on.
Yeah, and we said some of these other ones are great movies, but this is the only one that has, I believe this is the only one that has a distinction of being selected by the Library of Congress to be put in the National Film Registry as being culturally, historically, or aesthetically significant.
Wow.
So I mean, it's up there. It's famous. If you somehow don't know what this movie story is, it's about a child who wants a BB gun for Christmas, and then just his day-to-day life living up to Christmas, and then once Christmas happens. And there are so many good scenes in this movie.
It's a movie that kind of transcends the season. It moves beyond just Christmas stuff and focuses a lot on just kind of family interaction on like a day-to-day level. Everything's obviously magnified by the Christmas season, but a big plot point is the brother who won't eat, which is something that I'm sure every family has to deal with, and the kid that wants things that he's not allowed to have, and getting bullied, and it really is just kind of touching on it's like a slice of life movie, but it just so happens to take place over Christmas. I think it's one of the reasons that it's been as popular as it is.
Yeah, and what's a little bit interesting about it is this movie's from 1983, but if you watch it, the setting is actually the 1960s, so everything's a little bit older than you would think it was. And thinking on it now, I mean, this movie takes place in like 1966, 1967. That was 50 years ago.
Oh my God!
Just how far Christmas has come from. I know it's a movie and it's based off of a short story, but still, it's somewhat of an idea what Christmas was like in the 60s, and just how far it's come from now to 2018 is mind-boggling.
Yeah, really. And this is another one that's just infinitely quotable. Like almost the entire movie is like sound bites that you can use or you can hear just kind of regularly.
Yeah, I mean, I think the dad in this is great. I think the ending is great with the ending up in a Chinese restaurant, the Bumpus' dogs. So many good parts of this movie.
The leg lamp.
The infamous leg lamp.
It should be said that this movie has a museum dedicated to it in the house that it's set in.
Really?
Yeah.
What city is it? Do you know what city this is in?
I want to say it's Cleveland.
Huh. I did not know that. That's awesome.
They have the lamp. They have a bunch of props from the Cleveland, Ohio, the Christmas Story House. It is a museum.
So if you guys have not seen this, check it out.
I literally don't know how that would be possible, but yes, definitely watch it if you haven't.
Yeah, if it was like you gun to my head, name one movie that I don't know 95% of the American population has seen, I think it would be A Christmas Story, just because it has so much exposure.
Yeah, it is pervasive.
All right, guys, thanks for checking out our episode. Before we finish up here, me and Christian are just going to say that our least favorite Christmas movies, it's not ones that, we think are objectively the worst. These are just the ones that we dislike the most. And my least favorite Christmas movie is The Santa Claus starring Tim Allen. For whatever reason, I just don't like Tim Allen. I didn't like him in Home Improvement. I don't really like him in anything he's been in since. And I think The Santa Claus is really dumb. I know some people like it, and that's good, to each their own. But, man, I really think that movie's bad. And I was torn between this and Christmas with the Cranks. I haven't seen Christmas with the Cranks in over a decade. I saw Santa Claus last year, and it does not hold up.
I was going to say, but between the two, I would think if you were not a fan of the Santa Claus, that would be much worse, because it is much more like popular than Christmas with the Cranks, and so it would be hard to avoid during the holidays.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I just don't. The biggest thing that I liked about the Santa Claus was, I don't even remember the actor's real name, but he was Charlie Epson. Numbers was one of the elves in it, and so that was cool to see. But otherwise, I did not think it was a good movie. What about you, Christian? What is your least favorite Christmas movie?
I'm going to go with A Bad Mom's Christmas, which I believe also came out last year.
I don't know if I remember this one.
So it's the second Bad Moms movie. I watched both. I remember really liking not really. I remember liking the first one and thinking that I would probably have liked it more if I could identify with like the mom life situational humor that was in it. Like I thought it was funny, but like if I had been a single mother or a mother of twins or whatever it is, I think I would have found it a lot more entertaining, just because I couldn't connect with the material as much. And I went into Bad Moms Christmas thinking like, man, if this is as good as the first one was, it'll be an entertaining way to spend a couple hours. And oh boy, I was not pleased with that decision.
Oh man, there's so many, just, I think, I don't know what the proper term was, but like I would say like clickbait holiday movies, but that's not really the right word, but just so many poorly produced movies that are shoved out there for a cash grab movie thrown out there. And it seems like, from just based on what you said, being titled Bad Moms, and I remember the first Bad Moms, I didn't know they did a Christmas version of it. That's what I would think of as it would be a cash grab.
Yeah, it kind of was. Like you said, I think there are a lot of people who think they have a successful idea and they want to market it further, and Christmas is an easy target, and so a lot of people just go, oh, we'll make a Christmas special. Daddy's Home did it, but they did it a lot more successfully than Bad Moms did.
Star Wars apparently did a Christmas special. I've never seen it, but I hear it's very bad.
I have also never seen it, but yeah, I've heard catastrophically bad things about it.
Oh my gosh, I have actually seen this. There's a Brady Bunch Christmas special that I ended up watching with my brother like 5 or 6 years ago. It's set, I don't know, like 2 decades after the Brady Bunch ends. Like it's when everyone's an adult, and I don't think it's that good.
I do want to drop a semi, and not really even semi, I'm sure it's going to be full out incendiary. I do not like The Grinch at all.
What, like the cartoon, or just everything?
Just everything. The character, the cartoon, the new. I mean, I haven't seen the new one just because I'm sure I'm not going to enjoy it. I don't know why. I've just never really liked The Grinch.
That is a bold claim. I like the cartoon. I don't like the Jim Carrey one, and I have not seen the new one.
Yeah, I also never saw the Jim Carrey one, but just, yeah, not a big fan. I will throw out something that I literally remembered about 5 minutes ago, and I wish I'd have included on the list. So just as a quick shout out, maybe an honorable mention, Krampus.
I was actually surprised you didn't have that. I haven't seen it, but I know you had seen it, and I heard that you liked it. So
I did. I don't know why it didn't enter my mind until literally like 10 minutes ago.
It's horror-y, and I don't think your mind's usually in that mindset when you're thinking of Christmas movies.
Yeah, that's true. But I would definitely tell anybody listening, if you haven't seen Krampus, check it out. It's about a monster from, I want to say, German mythology, that he accompanies Santa, and Santa gives good people presents, and Krampus takes bad people and kidnaps them and beats them with a switch. And so the movie is basically about a boy who's upset with his family, and so he wishes bad things on Christmas, and his wish brings Krampus down on the family. And so it becomes like a monster horror movie set over Christmas. It was dumb, for sure, but it was a lot more fun than it really had any right to be. Yeah, Adam Scott and Toni Collette. Yeah, like I said, it's more fun than it really deserves to be, but I would definitely check it out if you're kind of not feeling the traditional holiday spirit. If you want to watch a Christmas movie that is not a touchy-feely, feel-good movie, Krampus is definitely your call.
All right, guys, thanks for checking out our Christmas special episode. If you want to check us out, we are at Gambots Network on Twitter, and also, if you want to start giving suggestions for our Amazon review game, you can either send us a message through Twitter or email me at gambots.blog@gmail.com. Thanks for listening, guys.
Thank you.
No.
Christmas
Never on
Carol.
Christmas movie. The Grinch. Never on Christmas movie. Joey.
What
am I saying? Whatever you're number on Christmas.